Welcome to the show. Well, a new school year is upon us, and who better to shed a little insight on Washington County Public Schools than Superintendent Dr. Clayton Wilcox. Dr. Wilcox, welcome to the show.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
This is your second visit, and we appreciate you coming back. We've got several questions for you on several subjects, so if I can, I'm going to toss to Colin and ask him to do the first question.
Thank you, Jim. And of course, as a father of a student here in Washington County, this is going to be the first full year of digital learning plan implementation. So what's the year going to look like for the kids and the teachers?
Well, first of all, it's a great question because in some ways we don't know. We've worked really hard over the course of the summer making sure that all of the devices have been appropriately provisioned. We have great apps on them that are going to really help us instructionally. We're talking about how we'll roll them out. We're talking about how we'll maintain them right now. This is going to be very much a developmental year for us. We're going to try to coach our teachers into the appropriate time to use that technology in the classroom. And we're going to really kind of learn as we go. You know, the old adage about riding a bicycle, kind of learning to ride as you put it together. I didn't do that very well, but I think you guys know what I mean. We're excited about it. We've spent the better part of 2 years getting ready for this. We've done thousands of hours of in-service this summer. Our principals have just spent 2 days talking about our new curriculum, how the digital learning will ride on the back of that, and we're really excited.
Awesome.
Great. Ken?
So, you know, something I'm very curious about is where are we with the academic hub now?
That's really an interesting question. You know, some time ago, we actually pulled back and said, you know, this is an idea that we're not quite all together on. And quite honestly, I think it was the wise thing to do because it gave people a chance to come together. Greg Murray, who is the county administrator, really has done a lot of work behind the scenes, talking to our delegation, talking to our friends, the different organizations within the community. I think we're in a good place right now. We've had a number of meetings recently. We're talking about funding streams. We're talking about joint projects. We've had some marvelous conversations with the Maryland Theater. I think this community is going to be pleased, and I think people are going to see that we did a financially responsible thing by stepping back and involving more partners.
Good. You know, aside from the educational benefits, and you have a follow-up, and I'll certainly get to you on that, but aside from the educational benefits, one of the arguments that I've made is we're introducing a new set of young people to the city of Hagerstown that aren't going to be afraid to get down there, that are going to know what the city is and how to get around. I can't help but think there's some significant benefits for the city in terms of growth opportunities in the future. BISFA is a perfect example of that as well.
I think there is that. I think that, you know, people who become familiar with downtown are more likely to come downtown. But, you know, I think even beyond that, Jim, what I like is the celebration of the arts, that, you know, young people are kind of engaged in something that's larger than self, that really leads to the better side of our humanity. So I'm excited about that, particularly right now in really troubling political times. I think having young people who are grounded, who understand the theater, who understand the value of music, who understand the value of, you know, the arts and performance, I think that's a good thing for our community.
Ron?
Back some time ago, maybe a year and a half ago, we had a chance to talk a little bit at the theater in a meeting one day. And we talked a little bit about boutique. We talked about academic hub and boutique. Do you think because it's kind of changed its name to an urban educational complex that instead of an academic hub, it's more inclusive of education with USMH? With Barb Brigham, I would commend you all for what you did. You kind of did take a time out. I was at the meeting that you said it's time to take a time out and really look at the overall impact of what the urban educational complex is versus an academic hub, because an academic hub was too generic. It was, I'm not sure what it was, but I think the new name carries a little bit more validity to it.
I think so, and I think you're absolutely right. I think, you know, honestly, some of those early conversations that I had with you helped us to get to the point where we were, where we said, you know, we need to pull back because we needed to be more inclusive. Having USMH involved as a partner, actually helping to build some of the facilities, makes great sense. I think it's a good thing for taxpayers because now what we have is facilities that aren't just going to sit in the dark because we'll have USMH students in them at night, we'll have our students in them in the day. I think it just makes great sense. I think, you know, pulling back created a synergy that we didn't have when when we started to advance the idea. I'm proud of the fact that we advanced the idea because I think it started a conversation, but I'm probably even prouder of our board for having the wisdom to step back and let the community catch up and actually let the community make this project much stronger than it would have been had we gone on it alone.
I don't think most people realize that the Maryland Theater is a virtual classroom for the Barbara Ingram School for the Arts because they're there most every day. They're a valuable part of the Maryland Theater, and with all their parents and grandparents, aunts and uncles and everybody with the fine productions that Barbara Ingram puts on, it's been a godsend to downtown Hagerstown.
Absolutely, absolutely. And you know, I think a lot of people don't understand also that we use the USMH building during the day. We lease 8 classrooms. We're in the Bridge of Life building where we use them for cafeteria spaces. We're in the Grand Piano building downtown, leasing the 4th floor there for our writers camp. So it's really, I think, an important time for our community in terms of education and the kind of the celebration of downtown.
How do you see that all moving forward now with the new architect? And
well, you know, I like what I'm starting to see now because, you know, the architect from the theater and talking to the architect from the Bowman Group and talking to the group that's doing the area that USMH is looking at, there's just some neat ideas coming out of that group on how they're tying all of it together. I think the other thing that's really important for the community is to see how, you know, the backside of this complex is actually really going to be the end of the walking trail. And it's going to make that a spectacular kind of end point, a terminus point. We're really excited about how things have come together.
Well, to be perfectly honest, I think the utilizing the educational piece and the arts and entertainment piece, including Maryland Theater, including Barbara Ingram, as an anchor for downtown is going to be a godsend for downtown development.
I think so.
Yeah, Speaking of shiny new buildings, though, you have a new elementary school. Tell us about that one.
We do. You know, we're opening Jonathan Hager. I think, first of all, the name pays tribute to, you know, kind of the patron saint of Hagerstown, if you will. But beyond that, it allowed us to take almost $10 million, $15 million of deferred maintenance off of our books as we closed Winter Street and as we opened and closed Conococheague. It gave us the opportunity to do some rezoning that will actually better utilize all of our facilities within the city limits. And the new building is spectacular. It is a LEED silver building, as our new construction is. It was designed so that it can grow. We've enlarged the core spaces. We used some extra money that we had in terms of expanding the gym size so the community can use the gym in the after hours. So we're really excited about the building. We had an open house last week, and we had hundreds of families come over and look at it. I think it's going to just be a tremendous drawing card for that portion of town as well. I would tell you, to see the smiles on the families' faces was really pretty heartening for a superintendent. You don't get many opportunities to do that.
Right.
I came by there today. It's I go by all the time because it's the best way out of the shopping area there if you get back. I don't know how long they'll let that go on until they put a stop to it. But on your diversity training, how's that coming along? What do you see coming in next? I serve on the chairman of the Goodwill Board, and that's one of the most difficult things that we have so many times is getting a diverse group of employees to represent all ethnic backgrounds, races, colors, etc. How are you dealing with this? Because this is not a problem that just happened since you've been here. It was here when Dr. Kitchens was here, Gerson was here, the whole crew. How do you change that, or can you?
Well, you know, I don't know. It's a tall order, but you know what we've done is we've reached out to dozens of universities, particularly the HBCUs, and said, you know, we have a great opportunity for you to come. We've tried to showcase our digital learning plan because we think education majors, whether they're black, whether they're white, whether they're Latino, all want to do great things for kids, and so we're trying to leverage the good things that we have going on. But it's a difficult thing for us for a number of reasons. But we've tried to step up and do a couple of things. One, we've built new partnerships with the businesses so that we have a council of the biggest businesses in town that are actually meeting. We have folks from Citi, we have folks from Volvo, we have folks from First Data who are meeting on a regular basis so that we can hire families as opposed to just a teacher. We think if there's employment opportunities for husband and wife or for, you know, members of a family family. That might help us go a long ways, Ron. But beyond that, we're not just putting all of our ducks in kind of one basket and saying we're only going to hire a group of people. What we're trying to do is improve the diversity and the appreciation for diversity of all types with all of our employees. So I think our next step is going to be to continue to train all of our teachers, making them more culturally competent, so that when they have children of color in their classrooms, they're more responsive and more respectful to those children's needs.
How will, I'm just wondering, at what point in time, student loans is always a big issue. Is there ever a point in time that we look, instead of just raising salaries across the board, that we look at picking up X amount of dollars of owed student loans? Or if somebody goes to college and we pay their college tuition, that they come back and they'll be required to work for 4 or 6 years in the Washington County school system. Is there anything that can be thought about on that particular issue?
I think so. I think some years ago the board tried to do some bonuses for recruiting, but that got tied up in the negotiations process as being a benefit that some teachers then couldn't avail themselves to. But I'm someone who's always looking at the positive side, so I think we probably can look at some things like that right now. We are looking at all kinds of different hiring incentives, but what we haven't looked at, and it's probably a good idea, is to look at maybe some loan forgiveness programs. Maybe that is a possibility.
So I'm gonna stop the conversation right here because we are out of time on this segment. I've still got more questions. Dr. Wilcox, can I ask you to stay over for another segment?
I'd be honored to stay with you.
Excellent. Yes. So stay tuned when we come back. More about Washington County Public Schools. We'll be back in 3 minutes.